Hello there, Joje from Sharp 11 Music here. I recently posted this transcription of a Paul Desmond solo on the standard All the Things You Are, and it's a incredible piece of art. He does a lot of great and interesting things and pretty refreshing stuff as well. I think a lot of concepts that are a little bit more linear, more melodic. Great tools that I've played this standard for so many years that gave me really new insights. I also saw a comment that was liked quite a lot, so a lot of people agreed with it. I think that Desmond felt a bit, I don't know, lost or insecure in the first chorus with the melody, perhaps even like not nailing the end of the melody and the first chorus, holding back, feeling insecure. I don't think that's, well, it's maybe a bit true that he holds back. I think it's for purposes of leaving headroom for more intensity to build the solo, but he knew perfectly what he was doing and he did some amazing things. Did one of the greatest Houdini tricks ever on the bridge in that first solo chorus. Well, I think let's just put it on. Let's listen to it together, and I'll pause it and give some commentary on what I think is happening, and let's dive inside the mind of Paul Desmond here. What do you think? So brace yourself, this will be fun. Let's start from the start. 8 bars, intro, here we go. Okay, let's stop there already. The first A, the second A was straightforward. The melody in a very Desmond-ish way, very fluid in rhythm, I would say, really great. It's also been recorded, I think, in a kind of church, or it's not the most clear recording ever. It's a live recording. I don't know what the what kind of concert hall they were playing in. It seemed really reverby. Also for transcribing wasn't that, could be nicer. But now we go to the bridge, and this is already really, he puts here, he pulls off a move that I really like. You know the melody, the original melody is actually this, by the way. Let me play it to you. Let's first look at that. So he starts with the same pickup, and then from this point on, let me mark it, he kind of plays there. You would have on alto, by the way, I'm talking C instruments or other transposing instruments. I hope you're following as well. This is just really interesting, and you can just follow the systems and the mechanics Desmond was doing, and you can implement that later in any key. So he was actually here. The melody should be a A, and he played a E and a F sharp. It's kind of a second line. And then this is also a little bit of a variation, same rhythm, great notes on that chord, but normally you have there a C natural, C sharp going, and this is the original melody back. So he does a kind of variation in the middle, a second voice to the melody, and then we go to the next part. Normally, so the pickup is the same, and then so you see again that he starts with what the original melody is. That G sharp is the same. Normally you have there a F sharp, but that's pretty much the same. And then this part, he copy pastes from the 4 bars earlier, which is there the original melody, but here it would be where the D sharp is, it's a G natural. here where the F sharp is G sharp, and then where the A is a F sharp, and well, literally a third down from here to the F natural or E sharp on this, the major third on the C sharp major chord. So I think this is a great fun move. What he does, he plays twice this the same, and this shows you already. It's kind of a mashup, by the way. What he does, he takes both melodies and he kind of assimilates them in a way, and he plays it almost verbatim twice, only not here in this intro, because that would be he needs to also play some right notes. But what this gives away already, and I will show this later, is that the bridge is way more connected. These two keys, E major 7 and C sharp major 7, are way more connected than you might think. And this way of playing the melody with exactly repeating this melody shows that you can do over really different chords, B7 to E major 7 and G sharp 7 to C sharp major 7, third down, the exact same notes, and they work. I think it's a genius move. We'll see more of that later, and I'll explain there why it works so well. Let's first go further with the melody. And also here, that was perceived as Desmond getting a bit lost or something, but I don't think so. If you look at the notes, it makes totally sense here. The melody is very straight on. And yeah, he starts playing very soft. That's true, but I think it's a beautiful line. Normally you get... just only the C. And he connects it by this D flat on top of that chord, which makes it a chromatic line if you displace it by an octave. And that's great, I think. It's a beautiful found inner line there. And then he continues the idea of that little variation, going half tone down. He thought like, oh, that also works if I go from C half tone down to, it fits perfectly on the dim chords, that note. So I think that's great. It's a perfect line, a very nice line, a variation. And then we will go on, and then the solo starts. And we will see this more in more choruses. You have those 4 extra measures in All the Things You Are. Desmond uses them a lot of the time as a kind of pickup for the idea he will start in like the next chorus. Let me find the spot. And there you see he lands perfectly on the F, so on the melody note, and then he starts with very long lines of melody. I think he starts very simple, kind of the most simple way of putting guide tones with a little note, not altered, little changing note here, just one below. Again, the same there. Then again, same. So you see F, which is third on D minor 7, and the 7 on G minor 7. Then E third, going to the 7 of F major, B flat major 7 to D, which stays a bit here on that modulation, and then he adapts to that. He eventually gets to this C sharp, so you see the inner line there, F, E, D, going to C sharp. That works perfectly. He will continue it to C, but then only he takes it up an octave and a little bit more variation. The variation is a little bit more extended. So for me, a perfect build of the ID. Let's listen to that. Okay, so beautiful line, really. Couldn't be a better example of how to use guide tone lines. And now we come to this first bridge, and this is genius. Let's listen to the full bridge, and then we'll go back bit by bit. And this might feel for some people like he got a bit lost, but I think he's actually like further ahead of all of us. And you can hear Brubeck, reacting to what Paul Desmond does in a nice because of this surprise Houdini act he pulls off here. So, how do I explain this? First, I need to show you that they are way more related than you might think. Here we have E major 7 and then C sharp major. But let me show you, this can be also, if you go to the relative minor, C sharp. Whoa, what am I doing there? So, this can also be C sharp minor. 7, whatever. So I'm just going to the relative minor here of E major. So, and if you know that, you see here C sharp minor 7 and there C sharp major 7. Then it kind of becomes like, let me get those two a little bit out of there. He already plays a line very much within C sharp major. If you see the notes, G sharp, F natural, that gives it away that he's thinking about C sharp major there. Or that's at least what is in his head. That's what he's doing. And it works. You see the F natural, well, let me get the original chords back, because those are being played. He still has to manage them and make them work, but they work. You're on the F sharp minor 7, no problem. The F natural is the sharp 11 on B7, beautiful color. And then he runs into problems if he wants to conclude that line, as he repeats it later here in actual C sharp major. But this is not C sharp major yet. They will play E major 7 or C sharp minor. It will make the most sense out of C sharp minor here, because it's a C sharp major thing that he's doing here. There in this part he lands on the third, the major third. And here he has to resolve it a half tone lower, actually outlining that it's almost like here we land on a C sharp minor, that we repeat it, and then that exact same line, and then he can land on that surprising, in this context, surprising major third on C sharp major 7, pretending like it's a Picardy third. You know, that thing where in classical music, especially Bach, could go in minor progressions for a whole tune for 2-3 minutes, 5-1, 5-1, different keys, but the main key always to minor. And just at the very end, the very Baroque thing to do is then the last 5-1, instead of dominant 5 to 1 minor, dominant 5 to 1 major. Literally a happy ending. And that's exactly what Desmond facilitates here for himself. And the thing that he starts here in major makes it work, and then lands on the E natural, as pretending as if he was doing a 2-5-1 to C sharp minor first. And that's what I think Brubeck reacts to, like, whoa, how did you do that? That's kind of a Houdini move there. It's really great. So let me get back the original chords, how they were. It's a bit jumping around. And it's this E major 7, because that's what it is, but C sharp minor, that's a relative minor. They have the same notes from the same scale. I hope this was kind of clear. I'll do later a better edited video about this, because if we know what Desmond is doing here, he does it in this way. I think it's kind of easier to think of it in the other way. So basically we can see this modally here in C sharp minor. You can keep that modally in C sharp minor, better harmonic minor, because then you have the C natural on top of this, will give the leading tone. So you can get 4 bars of Aeolian minor, just relative normal minor. Then you adapt one note, you make it harmonic minor, C sharp harmonic minor, and then you make it C sharp major. So you have really what they call a modal texture shift. It's really great. It makes the bridge really open up in a different way, I think, than what most people think, like, oh, I need to know all my 2-5-1s and all these keys, and first it's E major and then it's C sharp major. It's just modulating in crazy places. It's actually not. It's a very beautiful move of the original writer, and you'll see in many real books, or many, in some and not all, those are a little bit better real books in my opinion, like that they'll add this flat 5 to it, suggesting if it's a 2-5-1 where the 2 has half diminished, that it's still out of this modality of C sharp minor. Well, I hope that makes sense. I'll go down that rabbit hole maybe in a different video for more clarity there. Let's listen to the whole line again with that in mind, and you can make up your mind yourself, but I think it's really genius to do that same move first in the little melody in C sharp major, but resolving it to C sharp minor here on top of the E major 7, and then doing it again, and then he could surprisingly resolve what first was this E, the minor third, to the major third, a Picardy third. Here we go. Okay, so yeah, it's really a great move. And then he goes back to a melody note of the original melody, and he expands on that. What's really interesting to see here, also what he was thinking over these chords, on usually here on this little part, B flat major 7, B flat minor to A flat dim. That's what most real books tell you and what most people play over it. So then it would be something like this if I play it arpeggiated. But you see, Desmond doesn't follow that at all. He actually plays very much like he's thinking first in F major. This is just a chromatic approach tone here. And then when the B flat hits, he goes to the F minor thing. This is basically, if you see C, B flat, A flat, F to C, that's a F minor pentatonic shape. So he shifts from first A natural, so F major in this measure. And we will see this later. That now you would maybe accuse me of how do you know that there's just 2 or 3 notes? It's hard to tell. Yeah, but you'll see this later in other choruses coming back the same ID. So where he's expands more on it with more notes. So this is F major for me, F minor thinking, and that works perfectly there over the B flat minor. And then this is really interesting. So he did this. And he keeps that lower note as a focal note. You'll see that here. But he extends the ID to this E flat, which makes it sound like he's in C minor. So you kind of have another modal or a texture shift from F major, F minor to a line in C minor. He repeats that twice here. and then he modulates that up to magically get that same ID in D minor. So it's a really interesting move. It's hard to follow, but it's a bit like Brubeck will do with his crazy poly tonal stuff. What Desmond is doing here as well, actually. I think they were influenced by each other, and you'll see, yeah, this is kind of very advanced thinking, and you need to be familiar with these type of sounds and modulations, but he's doing that. F minor, C minor, going back to D minor with this same motive. And let's listen to that once again, and then let's go on. Wait, there we are. Okay. Major, F minor, C minor, same ID, D minor. Yeah. Oh, wow, this is great. So you get this new melodic ID. So this is an approach note E to D on D minor 7, not too hard. Then he continues. Again, approach note in a different direction with the F sharp leading to G, and he syncopates it a bit more. That's how you have to look at it. The C is actually the target note there, and it's a long-winded here enclosure, as they call it, with the C. Yeah, you have also have this chromatic passing, and then C, D to C. So he targets the C from one note below, a chromatic note, and one diatonic note above. And then he goes further with F approaching G, goes a bit back, and then he thought like, I want to reinitiate the original approach, but I want to do it in a more hip way. So he makes that turn to the D sharp, the sharp 11. So a very spicy note, but that's kind of a reiteration of this. If you see that, it's incredible. Let's listen to that once again. Let me try to find the right space. Wait, maybe a little bit before you hear the initial ID again. And then he picks up on where he left off. That's the great Desmond. You know, he can continue an ID so long into long chord progressions that keep on moving, but he can just mold them into whatever comes along. Oh wow. And then kind of the last one was like a sort of final well, let's go first to the A minor before we get there. So he continues the approach now in a different direction. Instead of, he goes the opposite way. So he landed first. Goes the opposite way. Bigger jump, but kind of the same ID. And then the same ID in a different sequence. And then he adapts these notes. Towards the end of his phrase here, he lands on stronger notes instead of, here that's BS. He takes mostly the roots and the fifths. So that's all very strong intervals with approach notes. But here he's really on the fifth, root, fifth, going with the modulation here, F sharp, root, and fifth and root. And this feels very like a perfect cadence, like a conclusive cadence at the end. like we are in E major, I've concluded this long ID, which actually started right from the top. No, before that, remember when I was talking about F minors and C minors going to D minors? It actually started there, that whole line. Incredible. And then we go to a kind of new ID. Actually, you might maybe even say this is the same ID, because this is a approach note again type of thing. Now here on E major 7 again with a sharp 11, this A sharp. Yes, and there he goes back to the melody, but the funny thing is that that part of the melody is very much like this. Also, the same sequence falls a little bit different place in the chord progression. That's the only thing. And then let's go on. Wow, and this is again great new ID. This is a third. He starts with the first the A, but then you get the third, which comes out of this D minor, the third and the root. He continues that because it fits perfectly also over that chord. He extends it. You would say like, oh, the F is a void note on C7, but this is a beautiful example of if you have such a great clear ID, the ID and the clear ID trumps the chord tones. I think I've heard Dr. Wally Wallace say something similar in that he had a great video on the transcription of Paul Desmond's solo on Perdido, where he isn't always, not at all actually, hitting all the target notes, but a lot of the notes in between, and also avoid tones. All good. He continues it. Here it's again the major 7 and the 5th. And then this is kind of funny. This is not really where you would look for the guide tones, because it's weird, right? That's the C, that would be the 9 and the sharp 11, and then you go to the 11 on the E flat here. But another place where we can kind of conclude he's going more for this. F major 7 going to F minor 7. Yes, again a little bit the ID continues that over here. And then lands beautifully on the D, which is a chord tone there. It works perfectly. You wouldn't say like he's of course the bass player and Brubeck are going with the B flat and the B flat major, the original changes here, but this is more what is in Desmond's mind, and it works just great. And then let's go on to the next part, and you'll see again here that he uses the last 4 measures to create a kind of pickup ID for the next chorus. Okay, and then he outlines this D minor. He starts in D minor, but actually he seems to be thinking very horizontally in F major from this point on. Just variating on it and landing on F. The complete first 5 bars, they sound like F major. And maybe F major with a 6 because he's playing the D a lot. Of course, because we are also coming from D minor. They're related. It's pretty much the same thing, but he's not really playing now to the chord tones at all. Here you see that best. No hint of really playing a C7 here. And then we go to where he starts, doing these classical type of things. Let's just go from where we just, let's listen to that once again to get more context. Yes. So yeah, this is really interesting. This is kind of the classical part. He has this simple ID, which he plays also very much straight and then grouped per two. I noted that a little bit, and not extensively, but here it's important to get this. And the great thing about that, it's a simple ID, just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in first A major here, starting the 5. And then he does that same thing with now adapted to the A minor chord, just anticipating it a bit. And then what I like most about it, besides a great sequence that he molds into these new chords, is that it's also displacing. This is kind of a full ID. This you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then he goes 2 plus 5 again 7. So that's a grouping of 7. Very simple melodic ID, but a grouping of 7. And then you see this again. This is 6, so it's not that he does exactly the same thing. And then he concludes here with, he lands perfectly, and he tops it off with, that's probably the first hint of some bebop in here. So, incredible. Then we go on and let us listen first to that line again, because it's great. Wait, let me find the place. Yeah, that's where it starts, on the major here. Yeah, great. You can also hear the drummer when Desmond did this displacement with that classical sequence, and the drummer put his bass drum. I think he tried to get along with Desmond. It worked in the beginning, and then the last bass drum wasn't where he thought Desmond would play it. Then we'll go to the next bridge, and then you see I've also notated this Brubeck's ID in the comping, just a simple ID, and Desmond is quick on his feet because he intuitively or very knowingly, that's a guess from me, but he reiterates the idea of Brubeck. You hear that? First Brubeck. Yeah, great. And then he extends on that melody, and I wrote in, it's actually this first, Again, I don't know, Desmond was known for quoting a lot of things. I'm not sure if he wanted to quote this, but this sounds like a very funny Irish melody. Let me look it up for you. It's called Whistling Dixie. Let's listen to that once again. It's also in the same key, that's nice. It's not completely the same, but I don't know, it reminds me of that. Let's go on. Also really interesting to see is that he continues that. And then same ID, same shape of that start. Adding actually just a few more notes while going down, so it also displaces, it flows seemingly from this E major into this D sharp minor, but it comes out of C sharp. So the key of E connected to C sharp major is like flowing. And then there is a little bit of more Brubeck in between, and it's not exactly Brubeck's notes, but pretty much the ID. Desmond plays, Brubeck plays, and then Desmond does the opposite move there. Not a perfect copy, but a very similar one. Okay, and let's stop here before we go on. This might be the most clear part where you see him. First, he does these turns, which is also very much F major-ish or D minor, however you look at it, but it's the same notes. And then here, on top of these chords, where most bebop players go all in on the arpeggios, you see actually Desmond thinks in, again, D minor or F major. So it starts on a D, it does these turns, and he ends on, like, couldn't be clearer, F major triad. So very clear he's thinking F major over this whole thing here. And he doesn't do it always. There's this other great version with Gary Mulligan, by the way, where you see him actually going with this progression, but he has multiple options in his head, obviously. And now we go to the last chorus, and again, he uses these four measures, the last four, the extension of this form as a kind of pickup, and it starts to sound a bit, this is a little bit of a bebop-ish line. Really nice, he's full in his vigor and in his determination here. Oh, and how about that last little thing? It's really hard to notate. Still don't know if it's actually super right. There is this double G, which is really hard if you want to play it, but it's there. I won't show you the transcribing way. I mean, we're just going through it for the harmonic info and the storyline that Desmond is creating. It's the closest I could come. These are actually the pitches that are there, but somehow I don't know what is happening there. There is here at this little point, there is or a low intonated, maybe G sharp, but that didn't really work, or the pitch is a G, but it's hard to play. Don't know what Desmond actually was doing. So this is a very bebop-ish line with chromatic passing tones, or that's the, no, it's the second last chorus. So. So Desmond now is full on longer lines. It's more dance, more notes. So that's the build-up, I think, what he did from his first chorus, where he seemed insecure, or for me, more lyrical and melodic. He started softer, more legato, more spaced. And these are all tools that if you start that way, then you can increase multiple levels of intensity. That's a way to build a storyline, not only most people only use the tool of fewer notes and then more notes, or harder harmonic devices if they want to expand in a solo and go more intensive. But Desmond uses also the lyrical aspect and the way you phrase stuff. Now he's phrasing way more, and he's being way more dense. So he plays. That's a great line, by the way, and more chromaticism as well. So it gets more dense in that part as well. So you see here again D minor, the triad. That's how he starts. Also the A, and then he goes chromatically. And here, this is actually kind of if you think for a moment enharmonically, then I should have called this a D flat instead of C sharp, and that a A flat. And then you see like a B flat minor 7 here going to A. How does that work? Well, here you see a F pentatonic, pretty much. So he's thinking in a way, again, very F-E. That sounds really wrong. Very the F word here, the F chord, with the pentatonic, and this B flat minor arpeggio makes sense in that that would be the fourth step degree within F major. That's our key here. That's modal interchange, the fourth step degree minor. I went a bit back and forth between this F major and this B flat minor, a beautiful, very melodramatic change actually. And then he comes down with a clear ID. So you see here a G minor 7 and you think again, whoa, he's a bit too late on that, right? We are already at C7. So G minor 7, F major 7, then again G minor 7 in the next inversion. So you keep the top note F, E, D. So that's really nice. And then he ends with a bebop-ish type of line. It sounds great. Oh, that's just I'm not lifting a lot of licks lately, more IDs like we're discussing now, but this is a great line actually to maybe lift and get into your playing. It's a beautiful lick. And then he continues, so he's doing arpeggios. This is actually G minor, which is the second step degree to 1. Again, G minor in a different inversion, and then he needs to resolve it to our new 1, A major 7. Now we're in C major for this part, this and also the F chord after it, right? That's our new modulation, all in C major. All the chords come out of there. And he starts with the A minor as written, but then he follows his own pattern. He goes further down just every scale degree. So A minor 7 here. We will listen in a bit. And then a G7 and then F7. So the G7 is also in there, but from this here, F major 7, that's not here at all. Then C, E minor 7, and then D minor actually. And then, so he's getting that sequence. You see the upper line G, F, E, D, C, and then he anticipates when he comes to the C to this B natural with the G sharp. This is a E triad right in time for that modulation, and he kind of consolidates it here by double downing on it with some extra E major. That's really, really a nice move to make. Let me find the spot. Yes, consolidating that ID. And then there is a really great, long and kind of complicated line to play. Listen to that. He starts in E major and then he continues this little phrase, which is very elegant, kind of hard to play. And he keeps on modulating that into the next part as well. That's the great thing about it. He starts it in E, goes then into C sharp major. He molds it into every next modulation. He ends that, like he continued that ID so far. That's great. And then he had the audacity to end that with a C augmented. So let me play it from here. Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so kind of old school, that augmented triad sound. I like that a lot, how he ended that line. And he goes on. Yes. So he kind of goes further with the ID, and again we see that we don't need to look at these upper chords here. He stays within the F major ID. Way easier to think if you are doing this little that's basically the ID. He stays just in F major, so he can think way more horizontally in a bigger in a bigger picture. And then he ends with a very nice simple sequence. Again, very clear. And then we go to the actual last chorus. I hope you're still following. Probably nobody's still watching. If you're still watching, leave a comment. So let's go on. So that's the fun part, of course. This starts sounding like J.S. Bach at times. So what he's doing, he has a clear rhythmic ID. Tagada, 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 tagada. They also at the start go very clear in two different directions. So first it comes down, then goes up. Also very much inside the chords. So he could play horizontally, but he clearly knew the chord progression. So he played 5, 4, 3, and then 1, 2, 3 upward. Same thing. So that's, sorry, I hit a mic. So 5, 4, 3, 1, 2, 3 within D minor 7 relatively. Then again 5, 4, 3, 1, 2, 3 within G minor 7, and then 5, 4, 3. And that's the first part where he kind of breaks that exact sequence, but the shape is the same thing, and it is almost like he's going already to the F major 7 here. You see that if you think from F major 7, it's 3, 4, 5. He continues with the rhythmical ID, but then doesn't continue the going down, going up. He keeps on going up here, and then there's a little bit of bebop in there, and you have a remember this line here, which is a bit like the one he played at that place here, one chorus before. This was a little bit more extended, and then he continues a bit the ID actually, so it's very much in line with what he played here. But if you remember this ID 2 choruses earlier, Pique doggy pop. Let's go forward. That's the same ID, but now it's a smaller ID part of that. Remember that one was kind of displacing in groupings of first 7, 7, 6, and like that. This is just a group of 3. So, and he repeats himself in the opposite mirroring way, which is classical composition techniques, I guess. Yes, I will listen to this once more. So you get this ID for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in A, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in A again. So a little bit more thinking about A that continues over here. Then we go to G, anticipated here, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the opposite, mirroring it, and then we omit again the C major. So I could basically do this. In Desmond's mind, this is happening. And then we're a little bit earlier there, anticipating on the F major 7 and then repeating it. And then he plays only this little third thing, and he repeats himself over the octave. Goes further with the third, and he also brings it all closer together. So this is repetition over the octaves, fragmentation, what kind of words you want to throw at it. So you see again, that's the third. You see then more variation on, it's still a third, it's going down in the sequence, and then he repeats himself over the octave. Well, didn't want to take the chord. I took the chord again. So then this here, again the thirds, now twice the third, and then again that is a repetition of that. And then he goes, upward with that same structure we had earlier, tagada, tagada, a bit like this. So there's a lot of repetition coming back from his IDs. And then we come to this place, which is interesting. This is the only place that I cannot explain away with fancy terms. He actually kind of plays a wrong note, E. He's still thinking out of this E major here. Yeah, I could explain it with, for jazz, you have for everything a term that makes it sound like it was meant to be. So this is a delayed resolution. Delayed as in still E major, but we delay it a bit over the next chord and resolve it. Actually, it doesn't sound that wrong, but it also has to do with Brubeck complementing his line there. I also notated that so you can hear that. That plus, if you remember, it's very much related by that the upper one could be C sharp minor, or is friends with C sharp minor here, E major 7, and this is a 2-5 still in C sharp minor. If you would also, that made it, it doesn't like the chord. Anyways, yes, this makes it even more clear, like a flat 9 is leading more strongly to the minor. But we are not going to a minor. You remember that this could, but this is the relation. C sharp minor, it kind of continues here, and then we have kind of a surprise that we go to C sharp major. Yeah, so let's listen to it. I was explaining way too much. We still have to listen to it. Let's listen from the same spot. Again, he continues the idea of variation and then repetition of IDs over the octave. You see the same line coming back here as well. Desmond was so good at this, and Brubeck as well, by the way. Great team there. That is the same as that in a different octave. So he's stretching that ID, and here as well, there is a lot of repetition over the octaves. Very clear with this F in the middle, up, down. Yeah, really great. Here, then we go to the end, but before we listen to it, you see here again, this is a kind of F major blues scale. You see again that he's thinking about F. And then we end with a blue note here. That's really bluesy here. Really, just right at the end, he provides you with a very tasty and subtle. I played it way too smeary there, but a very nice little blues line. And then we go with a bit of bebop back to the end. Yeah, incredible. I don't know. I hope you like this a little bit. Me going this way through the solo with a bit of a analysis and showing you what probably was around in the mind of Paul Desmond. It's a amazing way to play over all the things you are. I really learned some new ideas to be not too very much on top of the chords every time. There are different ideas. You see Desmond going back and forth between really playing on top of the chords. Certainly when it came to these classical type of techniques in this last chorus, and then changing it up with some bebop in between. It's a great way to mix up things. It's really a beautiful combination of thinking horizontally and vertically, and sometimes diagonally, I guess I would call it. Let me know what you think about this. What is your takeaway? Did I miss something? Or is there a favorite part that kind of started to click after this video? I would love to know that. Yeah. And do you want me to make more these kind of videos? I love to do that. I should mention we actually have also lessons, me and Timothy, where we dive way deeper into solos and lines. We do every week a line. It's one of the lines from this week will come out of this solo for sure, and we make exercises and lessons based on these on Patreon. So if you want to support the channel and support yourself with some jazz education, you can go there. I'll put a link in the description. Okay. Hope to see you next time. I'm Jorre Reinders, and bye for now.